Okay, Susan Potter developed an advisory committee to help develop the school's mission and vision statements. Helen Burke was elected the committee chair, and the committee wanted Susan to be the chair instead. The committee did not want to come up with the mission and vision statements. They wanted to only okay them. Okay, so here is what my plan that I would have done. First, I would have approached the situation completely different. I would first have asked for volunteers for the committee from staff and community members and students. I would then take the list of volunteers to Mr. Rawlings and the school board and discuss them to see who would be a good fit for the committee. I definitely would include students as well, since the students are older. Having their insight on what they like and their ideas of the school, it would be very important or imperative. Next, I would hold an initial meeting with all members of the committee and let them know our committee's goals. I would want to do this up front so that we are all on the same page and have a clear and focused agenda. At that first meeting, we would come up with the group norms. I would have a list of my own norms that I would like to be included, but I wouldn't share those. I would want to hear what everyone else had and what they thought was essential to our group. If the group helped develop these norms, they would be more likely to abide by them. During this meeting, I would inform the group that we will also have a co-chair and that myself and the co-chair will share the duties. We would then elect the co-chair and have a note taker as well. We would set a schedule for the rest of the meetings as a group. Then I would schedule a meeting with our co-chair, and I'm just going to use the same name and as the case study, and I'll say Helen. And during that meeting, I would discuss with Helen the importance of being on the same page. I would let her know my plans moving forward for the group and her thoughts. I would tell her that together we're going to talk to staff about what we would want in our school, and that we are going to be conducting a survey of all stakeholders. Helen and I would come up with the questions for the survey, and then we would present it to the committee at the next meeting. I would then discuss the agenda for the next meeting, as well as set a date on the calendar for the next time to meet with Helen. Before the next committee meeting, I would contact Mr. Rawlings and schedule a time to discuss with Helen and him our current district's mission and vision statements. I would ask what his thoughts and goals are for our new school building, and I would discuss the committee's plan with him and ask if he would like to attend any of these meetings going forward as well. If we're all on the same page, I feel that the committee members are going to be more likely to accept my plan. At that next scheduled advisory meeting, Helen and I would discuss our plans for the committee moving forward. I'm going to introduce the district's mission and vision statement, and we would talk about the importance of working together to create our own mission and vision statements for the school. Helen and I would have all members come up with a list of their hopes and dreams. We would list that out for them so that we could document that. We would then introduce the staff survey, saying that we want all stakeholders, staff and community survey, and tell them that we want all stakeholders' opinions. I would send the group off to discuss with colleagues and community members that the survey is going to be coming out, so that we get more acceptance to that. I would ask Helen to send the survey out in 3 days so that the community members had time to talk to colleagues and community. I would send the survey to all staff members and students grades 5 through 7th, that would be in the new building, as well as community members. At the next meeting, we would go over the results of the survey and review the district's mission and vision statements. We would then make a list of the common trends and list them in order of importance. Helen and I would then just debrief after that meeting. Then at the following meeting, we would take those trends and that data that we got at the meeting prior and start drafting a mission and vision statement together. We would discuss and make sure that they're aligning with our districts, and then we would take that draft to stakeholders before our board meeting. Helen and I would meet to send out the draft to all new staff members. At the committee meeting, we would discuss the results from staff input, and we're going to say that the results were in favor, so we would then take it to Mr. Rawlings. At any time, if they were not in favor, we would revise those. Helen and I would then set up a meeting with Superintendent Rawlings and present him the mission and vision statements. If he okayed them, we would then ask to set up a meeting at the school board. If not, we would take it back to the committee and revise. At that school board meeting, I would want the whole advisory committee there, and we would go over the process and the data that we collected before presenting the statements. I would also want to thank the committee for the tireless effort and work that they put in for the past 12 months. Once the board has voted and okayed those new statements, the group would meet to discuss how to unveil everything. And with knowledge and background and involvement in the way we are doing this, it would have ended in a better situation for Susan. So here are some of the pros and cons. Pros, all stakeholders have their voices heard. It's a democratic process. Leadership from myself and Helen. Data collected twice from 2 surveys. We've analyzed both surveys' data. Leadership from the committee to peers. Leadership from committee members at the school board meetings. Buy-in from all stakeholders. Alignment with the district's mission and vision statements. And I was able to complete my goal of coming up with a mission and vision statement, but everyone was on board because they were more informed and their voices were heard. Cons, this would be time consuming and a lengthy process. Possibly hesitation from community members, committee members. Students and staff, this would take additional time, so we would need compensation or gifts for them. And then making sure the timing of the unveiling is appropriate for ultimate buy-in. I found that Susan did not build relationships with her staff or the community. She did not educate them on the need for a collaborative advisory committee. And suppose we would have started building relationships and setting the foundation for this committee that works together to form these. She would have avoided a lot of conflicts if she would have done this. Susan also needed to include all stakeholders' opinions, and she could have done this by conducting surveys and analyzing the data. So here's my plan. If I was hired as the middle school principal, and the dates, we'll say hypothetically I was hired August 20 of 2022. And then here's all the dates that I would go through, from sending out the introductory emails and a meet and greet with new staff to start building and forming those relationships, requesting volunteers for the committees, meeting with Mr. Rawlings and the board to discuss community members. And I also thought that maybe including the other principals as well into the decision of the committee would be helpful, because they're going to know those people. Send an email at the beginning of January. This is my timeline. I would want the survey to be sent out the week after spring break, and then we would meet the beginning to start analyzing of April of 2023 to discuss those results. We would meet at the beginning of May to start drafting, and probably have to meet a couple times. Helen and I would request a meeting in the beginning of June with Superintendent Rawlings before we went on summer vacation. And then the committee would have to meet again at the end of July to discuss revisions. I would request to present at the August board meeting and finalize all statements. I think some of these meetings towards the end could be done through an email with committee members. And then I would review over the next few months to make sure their vision statement, after the unveiling, I would want to do that at the ribbon cutting ceremony or right thereafter, just to kind of bring the whole school together in a big celebration. And then over the next few months, the committee and I would meet to review and make sure that the mission and vision is being exhibited by staff and students. We might need to do a needs assessment again, just from staff and students, to see how they are understanding and how they're feeling things are going, as well as educating. I think that this would be an important step to have the mission and vision statement completed before the new school year. This would allow students, staff, and community members to know that the goals of the school. I would request compensation also for all staff members on this committee, as well as giving gifts to during our unveiling to community members, staff, and students. since we would have to work over the summer. Here's my plan implementation steps. The climate and culture of the school in Lightville School District with Susan Potter as administrator is off to a rocky start. The staff and community seem incredibly hesitant to make decisions for others. If Susan had built relationships with her staff and community members, she would have had a better start, and Susan also needs to educate and empower all her stakeholders. She needs to let them know that their voice needs to be heard and should be heard, and that it is important. When you build relationships with stakeholders, you motivate and inspire people. Here's the standard correlation. The assignment correlated to standard PL01 by allowing me to take a real-life situation and apply the skills that I learned during this class. The case study allowed me to practice my leadership skills and lead a group of staff and students in writing a mission and vision statement. I practiced ethical leadership while applying the steps needed, from forming the advisory committee to the unveiling the new mission and vision statements. During this assignment, I was able to apply the knowledge that I learned during this class to a real-life situation. I also practiced my leadership skills using best ethical practices and newly learned strategic leadership. During this assignment, I was able to think about leadership roles that I'm currently in my school district. I reflected on how I would incorporate these strategies into how I interact within those roles. My reflection on this assignment. I enjoyed this assignment. At first, I was overwhelmed and not sure how to proceed, but after I sat back and started analyzing the case study and thinking through each step in the decision-making process, I knew exactly how I wanted to handle the situation. Building relationships, to me, what is the most important and would be the most important within this committee, with this committee, students, staff, and community. If Susan had included the committee members in all aspects of this process, they would have been more inclined to be on board. Susan also didn't collect data from stakeholders, showing the importance of all voices being heard. And here is my reference page.